I would first like to apologise to those of you who watched part 2 and thought, where's part 3? I got bogged down by other events that took up a lot of my time. I was prodded into action by my wife who, noticing how many new subscribers to my channel there were, advised me that I should resume the tutorials. I realised then that I hadn't completed this mini-series on the AI Z-depth effect. So, having issued my apology, here is part 3, the final part. In parts 1 and 2, I demonstrated the use of AI Z-depth as a compositor. The plugin can also be used as an effect applied to a media event. In this part, I'll explore this option. If parts 1 and 2 were perceived as intense, this part should be relatively easy. I'll be demonstrating how the plugin can be used to isolate the foreground and apply an effect to the background. Before I get into applying the tool as an effect, I need to address an issue that a user raised relating to part 2. I was asked if it was possible to make the emergence of the text from the foreground object more realistic, instead of apparently popping out from it. I mentioned in part 2 that the degree of realism depended on the rate of change of the nearest parameter between keyframes. The higher the rate of change, that is, the steeper the slope, the less realistic the emergence would be. The event used in part 2 was only 5 seconds long, and the method I used limited the rate of change I could use. I've investigated this problem further and, by trial and error, I've come up with a solution. This project is a modified version of that one I used in part 2. In this project, I only have 2 keyframes. The second one is where I want the text to have completely emerged from the rock. You can see that the slope between the two is very shallow. I'll play the timeline. As you can see, the shallow slope has made the text emerge more realistically. As you can also see, there's a problem at the end. Part of the text disappears. This is because the furthest parameter is still at 0, and the trees disrupt the map. To correct for this, a keyframe must be added after the text has fully emerged. This time the keyframe must be added for the furthest parameter, so I have to activate keyframing for this parameter. I'll set the value of this position to 1. So, the effect can be made to look more realistic, but it may take some experimentation to get it to do what you want it to do. With that issue out of the way, I'll continue with the tutorial. Before getting into the subject of this part, I want to give another example of compositing. In previous examples, I've used text media composited with an image or video. The reason text can be composited in this way is because it has a transparent background. It therefore follows that any media with a transparent background can be composited in this way. In part 2, I demonstrated how text could be made to look as if it travelled through a solid object, the monolith. For this demonstration, I've created a solid object in Boris FX Title Studio and saved it as a ping image. If you're not fortunate enough to have Title Studio, any suitable ping image will do, but it must have a transparent background. Like the text event, the ping image goes on one track, with the image of the monolith on the track below. It's composited and animated as in part 2, except for the animation of the ping image. I had to animate this using its pan crop UI. I'll play the timeline. So, you see, it doesn't have to be text media. It can be any object, providing it has a transparent background. It's fair to say that this tool has some limitations when used as an effect on a video event. The content of the video can severely disrupt the depth map throughout the video. If you're lucky, keyframing the various parameters can get you a reasonable result. My experience, though, is that that's not the case. I'll give you an example. I attempted to blur the background of this video. The best I could do by animating the Z-depth parameter was this. Applying AI Z-depth as an effect to an image event is fairly straightforward, with no keyframing required. Having said that, the result will depend upon the suitability of the image. The foreground subject or subjects must be clearly isolated from the background in order to create an accurate mask. Any suitable effect can be applied to the mask or the invert of the mask. You apply AI Z-depth to the image event as you would any other effect. This is a video event, but I'm going to treat it as an image event using the first frame. On the AI Z-depth UI, click the FX plus icon and choose the effect. I'm going to use the black and white effect. The effect has to be placed before the Z-depth effect in the plugin chain. To do this, click and hold the Effects tab and pull it so it's between the pan crop entry and the AI Z-depth entry. Now switch to the AI Z-depth entry. Click the Mask FX checkbox if it's not already checked. Because I want the background affected, the Invert checkbox needs to be checked. In this case, the checkbox is already checked. Finally, deselect the Transparency checkbox unless it's already unchecked. Just to show that with a suitable video event, the tool gives a reasonable result, even without keyframing the parameters. I'll play the video. The foreground subjects are isolated from the background, which allows the tool to create a reasonable moving mask. Having said that, there are places where the mask breaks down. In conclusion then, when used as a compositor, with a text or a pink event and a suitable image, the tool can be quite effective, especially when animated. Given the right conditions, masks can be created far quicker than by using the Bezier masking tool. However, when it comes to video events, the tool can struggle to create accurately consistent masks throughout the video. No doubt the tool will improve with time, but for now, in my opinion, its usefulness is confined to images only. As always, thanks for watching. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing. Until the next time, bye for now.